2023 budget after its submission in Parliament by the Minister of Finance. The CAP's office in the Gambia has revealed the progress made in the country's security sector reform process. And as the world commemorates International Day of Violence Against Women, a UN report reveals that over 5 women or girls are killed every hour by a relative. Well, this and more coming your way on The World Today. Hello, this is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. And we begin with matters of the National Assembly, of course, because Gambia's National Assembly Thursday debated on the draft budget for the 2023 fiscal year after its presentation in the Parliament by the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs on the 14th of November 2022. Honorable Seni Jawara, NAM for Lower Salon, has called for the setting up of a local market for basic food commodities rather than depending entirely on imported goods. Honorable Jawara expressed the need to spend more on the security sector to boost the work, police patrol teams and the prison service and the National Army. His arguments were seconded by various other NAMs, some of whom questioned the wisdom in the allocation of billions of dollars to the Foreign Affairs Ministry. The Gambia government expenditure is projected to rise from 31.18 billion in 2022 to 35.41 billion in 2023. Some of the deputies expressed dismay over the billions allocated to the Foreign Affairs Ministry for the opening of new embassies. The objection is that the money should have been put into education, healthcare, or agriculture. An earlier request by the State House Battalion to the Ministry of High Command for uniform, movement, and equipment was also included in the 2023 budget. And we will bring you more details of the debate in our subsequent news editions. Now, moving on, since the arrival of the newly elected Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, well, concerns are growing over the safety and welfare of migrants in the European country. The Prime Minister recently redirected a migrant ship to France, which triggered tension between the two neighbors, leading to France suspending its migration deal with Italy over the row. Now, as featured in this report, a West African migrant shared his experience since he arrived in Italy while hoping to work with other migrant activists to support others. Here's more details of that in this report.
Suleiman Diarra arrived in Italy from Mali 14 years ago, but he remembers the life-threatening journey across the Mediterranean like it was yesterday.
I travelled from Libya to Italy in a small boat with 28 others. We were at sea for 2.5 days before a fishing boat rescued us. We were so lucky to all arrive safely because many people can die along the way.
After years of exploitation while fruit picking in the Italian countryside, he made his way to Rome, where he started a co-op to make organic yogurt. With gradual success, he started to employ those who were disadvantaged or marginalized. The business model has now been extended to a cafe in the capital.
Many with Asperger's syndrome are discriminated against and abandoned by society. Working in this public space and speaking to clients, they can be social. In the same way, an African migrant can have the opportunity to learn the language and integrate.
Friend and mentor Lorenzo Leonetti is at the forefront of the project, which was awarded a permit by Rome Council.
To learn a craft gives migrants the opportunity to transform their residency permit that was originally granted for humanitarian reasons to an employment residency permit.
However, there's concern that Italy's new right-wing government could make it more difficult for people like Suleiman to start a new life. This month, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni redirected a migrant ship to France.
In the first 3 weeks of the Maloney government, we haven't actually seen politics of managing these influxes. We've simply seen attempts to block the efforts of humanitarian workers to save lives. What we say is that we need more European cooperation, both at the emergency zones and at the negotiating table, to determine the best strategy.
One day, Solomon would like to return to live in Mali, but in the meantime, he's committed to helping others in his adopted home of Italy.
For me, it is a pleasure to know that I can help others. This is what motivates me to go ahead.
Coming back home, a group of young engineers from the University of Applied Science, Engineering and Technology, USET, have innovated a smart home and dustbin in a period of 2 days. Now, the students unveiled their innovation at a recently concluded ACE Impact meeting held at the International Karaba Conference Center. And our Moses Imendi has more details of that in this report.
The Gambia is among a number of countries in the world that are lagging behind in terms of their engineering and technological prowess. In today's world of digital communication and super-fast internet connection, abundant wealth is available to be had for those who have got the intellect and creativity to invent new products or develop programs that makes life a lot easier for people. This is where the wealth of a good number of countries come from today. Following the change of government in 2017, there were renewed calls for a new focus on the establishment of robust policies that promote engineering and technology. This culminated in the upgrading of the former Gambia Technical Training Institute into the University of Applied Science, Engineering and Technology, USET. Students at USET are working hard to develop products for the world market, and at the recent ACE Impact meeting held here in the Gambia, a group of young Gambians unveiled a smart home and dustbin which they developed. Maimuna Jallo is the smart home project head.
This is what we have here as a smart house from USET, and the control is done by network to mobile phone, which is done by through voice, text message, and through remote from their mobile phone. As long as there is connection, it works fine. And then at the end of the day, like if you do not have the connection, you can also control it manually, which is all set in the house here.
Here, a team member demonstrates how the smart home operates, leaving watchers in awe.
First, I will use the button to turn the lights on. As you can see, lamp 1 is the inside lights. If I press it here, the inside light is gone. Lamp 2 is the outside lights. That's the outside lights. That's the fan switch. If I press it, the fan will come on. You can also use voice command. Hello Google. Hey Google. Turn off all appliances.
Okay, turning 3 switches off.
Wow. You can also use it manually to turn it on. If you don't have internet, you can use it manually to turn it on. Yes.
Kanifing Municipal Council, the largest municipality in the country, launched an environmental transformation project aimed at tackling the issue of waste management. The smart dustbin invented by this group of students could likely find a receptive market right here. Mbajuv demonstrates how the dustbin works.
Stand beside it and it opens, you drop something, you just move, it closes back. Yes, we might have the next part in Mbajuv, yes. You just drop, you move, it closes. I think this is an amazing project.
These students have done a remarkable job in putting up such an innovation. But according to Mbajuv, the journey was difficult and highly challenging.
We've struggled a lot over the past few months to come up with ideas, but implementing it is always a problem because of the materials are always not readily available, even at USET and so forth. So we will call on the government primarily, the Ministry of Higher Education, as well as all academic stakeholders to help us with the right tools to get things done. Over the past few months, we've come up with so many projects, building substitution boards for referees and so forth, so many other stuffs, smart gardens, traffic light systems. We've built all that over the past few months, but then getting the the tools as well as the help from the different stakeholders is always a problem. As you said, the students are well motivated, okay, personally, I mean, within themselves. But then from from those on top, it's usually difficult to even have the right communication tools and whatnot. So what we're calling on is the government primarily to help us with materials, because engineering has to do with a lot of practical stuff, as well as all academic stakeholders.
Engineers build essential infrastructure upon which the society depends. They turn engineering knowledge into action, traversing the path from concept to practical creation. Technologies, on the other hand, are changing at a fast pace, and although it remains uncertain what the world will look like in the next 20 to 30 years, what is certain is that whatever inventions occur, engineers will have played a major role in them. One hopes that by that time, invention from the Gambia will count amongst the most sought after in the world, with the USET leading the way. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Moses Imendi.
Moving on, the Office of the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, the DCAF in the Gambia, Wednesday convened a conference to demonstrate the progress and achievement registered in the reform of the security sector, with special impetus on results achieved in the framework of the DCAF program in the country. DCAF has been a key player in supporting the launching and implementation of the security sector reform process in the Gambia. It could be recalled that the Barrow-led government launched a series of reforms as part of its reform agenda to uphold the highest standards of democracy. Maria Macham tells us more of that in this report.
The ultimate aim of this conference is to increase understanding and visibility of the security sector reform process by presenting some of the key achievements registered as a result of DCAF's engagement and support, and also serve as a platform for information dissemination. It is hoped that following this conference, there will be a more thorough understanding of what security sector reforms are all about, how they are implemented, and the challenges inherent in their implementation, amongst others. This is crucial in ensuring increased transparency and accountability in the process. Security sector reforms have been implemented in the Gambia since 2017, and among the targeted security outfits are the military, police, and the intelligence service. The police doctrine, which outlines the mission, vision, and values of the police officer, and which is supposed to serve as a guide in decision-making and in operations. This doctrine is hailed as one of the major achievements of DCAF so far in 2022. Kenneth Isaac, head of DCAF in Banjul, said the program will strengthen the effectiveness of both the Gambia Immigration Department and the Gambia Police Force to ensure security.
The overall program aims to ensure that the Gambian Police Force and the Gambian Immigration Department are more effective in ensuring human security at individual and community levels, with due regards to human rights standards. The programme focuses on the legal and policy framework governing both institutions, human resources and performance management, leadership, internal and external oversight, and gender mainstreaming.
The Director General of the Gambia Immigration Department, Mamading Toure, said progress has been made through DCAF support and that there will soon be an immigration bill tabled before Parliament for ratification.
We have gone too far on the work that is ongoing. Just last week was when the drafting team finalized the drafting of the bill, and from that stage, it's going to move to the next stage. And we are very optimistic that this process will continue to sail through, and hopefully we may have a new immigration bill either towards the end of the year or early next year. We are thankful for this.
The Swiss ambassador to the Gambia, Andreas Semadini, said the security is an important foundation for stability while committing his country's continuous support to the relevant government agencies.
Over the past years, our authorities have established a solid and a well-functioning cooperation. It is based on partnership and on trust. Switzerland stays committed to support government agencies in the Gambia in migration matters. Gambia and Switzerland, we are both small. We are surrounded by bigger powers. You have the Senegal, we have Germany and Italy and France. And therefore, maybe we have a special sympathy for each other because we know how it is to be in that situation.
The main objective of the security sector reform process in the Gambia is to enhance civilian oversight of the security sector, as well as promote institutional transformation within the frameworks of good governance and human rights. DCAF is a foundation under Swiss law and a member state-based organization that seeks to enable lasting peace and sustainable development by contributing to improve security for states and their people. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
The number of elephants increased in Zimbabwe. People have begun to express concern over the escalating conflict between humans and elephants in the southern African country. Being the largest existing land animal, their close encounter with people could lead to catastrophe, just like when a 20-year-old man was killed by an elephant 2 years ago. As the animals' grown numbers become a concern, some local authorities are calling for the lifting of a ban on ivory training to allow them to initiate plans to protect the animals from attacking people. Here's more details of that in this report.
This is the spot where 22-year-old Stephen Tauzeni encountered an elephant on his way home from a friend's house in July 2020. His brother narrated how the jumbo pierced his torso and dragged his body around, shredding it to pieces. Robert's death is one of many caused by human-wildlife conflict in the northern district of Mbire, which neighbors a national park.
Long ago, we never used to see as many elephants as we do now.
Climate change-induced droughts and shrinking habitats are forcing elephants to come closer to humans. Dozens of elephants use this corridor, which is literally meters away from people's homesteads, as they go on their regular trek in search of water in the Angwe River. Greater contact has escalated conflict. The government has set up a fund to compensate victims, though no monetary payment can make up for lost lives.
Giving us money should be the number 2 priority. The number 1 should be preventing the conflicts by keeping the wildlife away from people.
That's increasingly difficult to do for authorities who say the elephant population has exceeded the country's carrying capacity. They want a ban on ivory trade lifted so they can sell part of a substantial stockpile to raise funds to manage the jumbos.
As a country or as a region, we don't need aid, we need trade, because the resources are there, we can monetize them, create value, put the money back into conservation. We also want to ensure that communities have a voice. Why is it people who have never seen an elephant in their lives, they are deciding how to share borders with wildlife, how to live with our animals? Yet people in Wangembire, Cholocho, Bulilima, who battle every day with these animals are not given that space.
This year, 68 people have been killed and 71 injured by wild animals.
This is Eyeafrica TV, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. And from the report there in the northern part of Zimbabwe, we now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. There's more coming ahead.
Imagine owning a home or service plot, enjoying the sunrise and sunset from a beautiful garden, morning hugs and beautiful moments with your loved ones, the never-ending stories, beautiful memories that will last a lifetime, making and sharing great moments with family and friends. You can turn this into a reality. All you need is a tough home.
Under the auspices of the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, the Muslim World League, in collaboration with the Gambia government, will host the Conference of African Religious Ministers and Ulamas on the 6th of December 2022. The International Islamic Conference will bring together ministers of religious affairs, leading Islamic scholars, policymakers, youths, community leaders across Africa to discuss and advance Islamic values that promote peace and tolerance. Let's come together and welcome our brothers and sisters in keeping with our trademark hospitality at the Smiling Coast of Africa. This message is brought to you by the ministry responsible for religious affairs in collaboration with the Gambia OIC Secretariat.
kignin jangiro kurumba bega bogu jamane kedi aga lemunu lagana anga tunanta ga nyamman toran po gore ngale minanga be ga yonki nga to ga Gambia ren kunne keni jangiro ay anga tunanti anga na pare na magan kutonuntu nan chobari nan tawalle minenga lemine ke no ngure nyana daga na anani hichene tanji mporo ga na Kenya kita mananya nta tanji mekita manu gunne kenanyi mulamba ganini mananyi teguno mafiba nanye ku magan kutonu kundanga na talle minenga ambada ga manyanga sobino gonde annatu nanti kendi ara huwa mini ma shirop no beno anga nanti ga sobari nanti chemical no nyani no gonde Kenya ndake watte kinyale mununga ken no gondi wa asu nyamarni anga nanti sare garu wandire mo ko beno ma igi goroni ni igana sobi ko men dile mununga ina nguru kata jare kabe etintontengia ina mpate baka etongondi saharunga kendi hakanna menjwa ina senoen kai idu ma ganaji dingiran chwa sare garunde ara wandi korni le munu iwi nyamar ni nanti magarga sirop no kobo promethazine oral suspension BP kendo Cofex Malin baby syrup kendo Macof baby syrup kendo Magrib and Col syrup angana la khibaram po gulenga ke watebe ga dura ngani kundu ikhiri kengani 1025 ke message kundu ma ke khibar sele benu ga dorta ngani Kenya ni ministry mpolla kay marande ngandi yonki changa ado kubenu ga saharim pinun tanganenga jamane ken gondi igara demandira kita baka World Health Organization kengani WHO.
Welcome back, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Eyeafrica TV. And once again, many thanks for joining us. And let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, ahead of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women observed on November 25th, a new report by the United Nations Women and the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime indicates that more than 5 women or girls are killed every year by someone in their own family. Of the 81,000 women and girls internationally killed last year, 45,000, around 56% died at the hands of inmate partners or other family members. Maria Macham brings us more details of that in this report.
More than 5 women and girls are killed every hour by a family member, according to the United Nations report, which is a horrific reminder that violence against women and girls is one of the most pervasive human rights violations worldwide. The report also states that too many victims still go unaccounted for, with the deaths of roughly 4 in every 10 women and girls killed intentionally in 2021 not identified as femicide. The figures also show that the overall number of female homicide has remained largely unchanged over the past decade, underscoring the urgency for strong actions on prevention and response. Presenting the report on Wednesday in New York, the Director for Program Policy and Intergovernmental Division of UN Women, Sarah Hendricks, said, "Behind every piece of data, a woman is killed just because she is a woman."
Femicide rates remain at alarming levels, with more than 5 women or girls killed every hour by someone in their own family. And we know, of course, that behind every data point, behind every statistical point, is actually a lived life. It's actually a real woman or girl whose life has been very brutally and often very abruptly ended just because she is a woman.
Sarah said women's rights organizations are facing numerous challenges of life threats.
Today's women's rights organizations are operating in an increasingly complex environment where they're facing threats to their very survival, where they're facing a significant shrinking space for civil society, and where there's a growing backlash against civil society and against women's rights in particular. In my life, I've known 4 different women who've been killed by gender-related femicide. And in each of these situations, it was not recorded as a femicide. And so this approach to shifting the statistical gathering of this data is absolutely critical to be able to track and understand that context, because context matters.
The International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women will mark the launch of the Unite campaign on November 25th to December 10th, and initiating the 16 days of activism concluding on the day that commemorates International Human Rights Day on 10th December 2022. This campaign, led by the United Nations Secretary General and United Nations Women since 2008, aims to prevent and eliminate violence against women and girls around the world, calling for global action to increase awareness, promote advocacy, and create opportunities for discussion on challenges and solutions. This year's campaign is Unite. Activism to end violence against women and girls will aim to mobilize all society to become activists for the prevention of violence against women, to stand in solidarity with women's rights activists, and to support feminist movements around the world to resist the rollback on women's rights and call for a world free from violence against women and girls. Reporting for Eyeafrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
Well, that is indeed a concerning statistics there, and we hope more is done to combat against violence against women. Now, on to our final story. Authorities in Seychelles have expressed concern over the threats caused by the rising sea levels faced by their country amid the effects of climate change. Nature Seychelles is one of the organizations raising the alert as the island nation faces the danger of losing its viability. As concern continues to grow among different stakeholders, there is a need for eminent actions to cope the increasing climate threat against this African nation. Let's have more details of that in this report.
These waters have been part of James' Azemia for 52 years. As a fisherman, he says he has noticed the water levels rising over time.
Long time ago, before, when I was young, there was lots of, we call this veloutier tree. There was lots of it all over the beaches. Now it's all gone. Not even one tree standing by. It's all gone. So you can see that the sea is rising and it's taking everything away.
In another part of the city, Seychelles' only managed wetland is feeling the brunt of a harsh climate. It's dry despite being a rainy season. Dr. Shah, a conservationist, says the country is affected in many ways, including increasing sea surface temperatures and intensifying frequency of tropical storms, including cyclones.
You can imagine here we are, low-lying area, where the airport is low-lying, the commercial port is low-lying, our fuel storage is right there, okay? Our emergency services is also low-lying. You get a storm surge, you get heavy rains, and you get a high tide, an abnormally high tide. Everything is flooded. So we don't have to wait for sea level rise. All these events converging, okay, can basically destroy the viability of Seychelles as a modern nation.
Nature Seychelles, the organization that Dr. Shah heads, runs one of the islands in the country known globally for being carbon-free. Cuisine Island, a sea and island reserve, is carbon neutral. Each year, carbon credits are bought through investment in projects in poor and developing countries. These include clean cookstoves and projects that discourage deforestation and promote sustainable energy. But Dr. Shah says this is not a lasting solution.
We can sell carbon credits, but that doesn't actually help us in adapting to these extreme events. These extreme events are happening every year. So every year, the event is more extreme than the previous year. It's hotter, it's wetter, it's drier, it's stronger. Okay? So that's the problem. So the ultimate thing to do is to help us to remove some of our, to retreat, as we say. Okay? So there's a retreat option in dealing with climate change. We can retreat, take some of the critical infrastructure away from near the sea, where most of them are, and go somewhere else. That takes a huge amount of money to do that.
As environment experts and government worry about what to do with all the climate effects, the locals here, like James Azemir, have resolved to live through any shock if luck allows them to.
Rising sea level threatens the island nation of Seychelles thanks to the effect of climate change. And with that report, we now eventually bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.